All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Professional Volunteer Podcast. We've got a great topic to talk to you about today, but first, let me do some introductions. First, I've got a co-host on with me today, and he's going to sound familiar to you because we've done a bunch of stuff together already, and that is Chief John Sahatjian from Jersey Shore Emergency Training. John, what's up?
What up?
How's it going today?
Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being here as always. And our guest today, for those of you who have been on our roundtable Zooms, he'll look and sound familiar, but it's his first time on the podcast. And that is a local brother to me here, who is a volunteer locally and then a career guy in a couple counties over. So, Gene, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate the couple times you've been able to jump on to the video stuff with us. First time on the podcast. So please introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and where you're from.
All right. Well, my name is Gene Dellipaoli. I am in Roscoe, New York. I am a volunteer up in Roscoe Fire Department. I am currently in the position as lieutenant. I've been with the department there just over 4 years. I've been in the fire service for going on 21 years now. Career fireman for almost 16. Volunteer prior to becoming career. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you being on, and the topic that we are going to dive into today, I did a little teaser on a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago? Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago on the mutual aid episodes, and that title is Entitlement. So today. And actually, I stole a little bit of Gene's thunder on the mutual aid episode. I wanted to throw a little feeler out there and see what how people would feel about that topic. And it was pretty well received. I got a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and obviously it is a pretty hot topic. So today we're gonna take a deep dive into entitlement in the fire service. So
All right.
Let's dive in.
Go.
So one thing that was said prior to us starting to record is that, I said we're going to talk about entitlement in the fire service, but entitlement as a whole in society today, not just in the volunteer fire service or the career fire service or the emergency services, but there seems to be a sense of entitlement as a whole in today's society. So maybe we can kind of dip our toes in the water before we jump right in completely and talk about just entitlement in general. Like how, what do you guys think?
Well, you got to start with the actual definition of entitlement. What do people think of when they hear the word entitlement? Definition wise, it's the feeling that someone has the right to something or some kind of special treatment. So that's like the basic premise of what the word itself means. So, again, as for whatever reason, culturally, we seem to be developing more and more of an entitlement type thing where people just feel that they deserve it just because of who they are rather than what they've done. So that's really the way the society seems to be going in that direction is, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
I'm this, I'm that. I should get this special treatment. And it spreads out. It's what race you are, what nationality you are, what color you are, what I deserve it because of this. It's out of control.
Yeah, for sure.
John? Well, I just looked up the definition. The official definition of entitlement, and it is the fact of having the right to something. And then
Correct.
A similar definition is the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment.
Yep.
So I can relate to this on a number of levels. Is in the fire service, even police world, I see it now. These young guys getting hired as cops. They're 21 years old, still living at home with mom and dad. And they, when I was on the desk, a lot of these guys I trained as dispatchers, and then they got picked up as cops.
Yeah.
And now they got the attitude of, whatever. I don't know what it is with emergency services, but it just comes with the turf. That people get into this role and they think they're entitled to special treatment because they're firefighters, EMS, police. When it comes down to it, yeah, thank you for your service, but
it's a service. It's a job like anybody else's.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. You're not special.
Yeah, and you're right. It does seem to be prevalent in emergency services, but my 9 to 5 is far removed from emergency services. And what I see at my 9 to 5 is the same. It's a lot of the same in the younger generation. It's like they don't think anything about it's crazy. So we're in a crazy time right now, right? Where the one thing that drives me crazy about all the stuff you're seeing going on social media right now surrounding the COVID is, all right, yeah, I get it. There's lots of people out there taking the extra step, going the extra mile, doing good things, above and beyond what they would normally do. But then you've got people out there that are like, bitching and whining, like, I should get a stipend for this. I should get more money for that. Like, I should get an extra stimulus because of this, and like, I hear it at my job, and I'm like,
you're lucky you have a job.
Be thankful you have a freaking job. Be thankful you're not furloughed. Be happy you're not sitting at home trying to get unemployment every day. Trying to navigate the New York State unemployment system. Be thankful that you've got somewhere to come every day, and you still get to clock in and clock out, and you're still being paid for what you do. Stop looking for that extra gimme, that extra handout.
It's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. And not taking anything away from the people that are really putting themselves at harm's way, but still, like, enough's enough already. Just freaking stop.
Shut up.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah, exactly.
I think it comes down to, now I'll speak for, I'm the youngest one on the show right now. Being 35 years old, I was brought up very differently. My parents were, my dad's almost 80, my mom's 75. So my parents are kind of older than the people that were brought up in my generation. And I was brought up very differently, where I bought my first car for my father for Kelly Blue Book value. Was a Ford Thunderbird with 122,000 miles, and I bought it from him for $3,200. So paid for insurance, his cell phone. So if we're not just talking emergency services, the entire world is different now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And kudos to the parents who still, practice that. I know my wife and I are on the same page with how we're going to raise our children, but that's what turns you in. When you get to an agency, you come with that entitlement. And I used to say that when you're fire chief, it's your job. You join, you get a new member, we make a fireman out of you, right? Now you got to teach these guys how to be men, how to be adults.
That's exactly right.
That's chiefs 10 years ago didn't understand that. And nowadays it's completely different. It's a completely different world we live in.
Yeah. Well, years ago, the chief didn't have to worry about that because you were being brought up as an adult. Right. You're taught respect. You were taught manners. You were taught to work for things that you want. Yeah. And today, like you said, these people are growing up thinking that they have something coming to them just because they're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not everybody. I don't want to get, we'll be bashed on.
No, certainly not everybody. And you know what? Entitlement shows up even in the older people too. Yeah. Like we started talking about a little bit, guys that are in positions now that, they feel that they should move up just because they're there.
So
it's not just young people.
Let's jump in there, since we naturally segued there. Let's jump in there, because this isn't just, like Gene just said, this isn't just about the younger generation. It's not just about that. All right, you can see this at any age, right? And where you see it commonly from older members, right, especially in the volunteer fire service, is, you know, that person that is holding a leadership position and maybe has been holding a leadership position for a while, all right, but has managed to just continue to just like hang out, you know, just not really make any waves, not really do anything spectacular, you know, but just kind of hangs out and keeps getting the opportunity to advance, you know. And what I brought up in the short episode was, you know, we elect somebody as a lieutenant and we keep them. There's grumblings in the background. This guy or girl isn't very good. Maybe they suck, but we don't want to get rid of them because they're not that bad. And then next thing you know, we're all sitting around and it's November or March, whenever you do your elections, and you're like, holy shit, Johnny's due to be chief next week, you know? Right? And we're all kind of standing around staring at one another going, well, that can't happen. Well,
it did.
It did, and it's been happening for years, but we haven't been paying attention to it. But now that guy or girl thinks they're entitled to that spot, right? Doesn't matter that maybe they don't have the training, maybe they don't have the experience, maybe they don't have the people skills, maybe they haven't done a goddamn thing in 10 years to show that they should get that position. But here they are, their first assistant chief, and it's time for them to be elected chief, and everybody's standing around going, this is going to be horrific.
Yeah. And they do it anyway.
But we do it anyway.
But you know what? I think we create some of that because sometimes we'll fill a spot just because we need to fill a spot, not because the guy deserves it. So we're all a little bit at fault.
Absolutely.
You know? So that's part of the problem too. You know, you get a smaller department, you know, you have these positions. We're a little short. We need to get this spot filled. So we take somebody who we think, hey, this guy's been for a while. You know, not this guy's been doing a great job. It's this guy's been here for a while. And that's where it starts to go out of control right then and there. You know?
Listen, I personally have been in those situations where you take somebody and you plug them in just because you don't want to have a hole. You know, you don't want to have a hole in your line, however many people your line consists of.
Right.
You know what? After it's said and done, what I've also realized over the years is having somebody fill a spot when that person really doesn't want to be there anyway. You know, they're just doing it because they feel like they're doing everybody a favor and they're not helping you with anything. Right. You're almost better with just having the empty spot.
Leave the spot empty.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, what are they actually doing? You know, like if they don't want to be there and they're not helping you in any way, like why
we were going to have a vacancy in our captain spot, and it's chief, deputy chief, captain, and 2 lieutenants. And we were going to have a vacancy. Nobody was ready to move up. We didn't have a new lieutenant, whatever the case. It was a big part of me being chief was me saying, I'm not putting you back in there. You don't have your percentage. I'm not bending the rules for you. And this is the way it is. And his response was, well, you know, if it's a fire, you want me there. I'm the guy you want there. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. That's it. That's the entitlement that I'm talking about with the older guys is
exactly it.
Well, I've been here for 30 years. I'm the guy you want when there's the big one. No, I want you here for training. I want you here for, you know, to lead the men in everyday life, not just when the big one comes. Because when the big one comes, nobody's going to give a shit who you are.
Yeah, and that's where we said a little bit about, you know, it comes in all ages. You know, you'll get the senior guys that have been around, like you said, 20, 30 years. They were past chief, and, you know, they think that they could just come when they want, do what they want, not have to listen to the rules. You know, that's also entitlement, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
People don't see that, but that's absolutely a form of entitlement. You know, just because you're a chief doesn't mean you don't have to follow the rules.
Right. And listen, just because you were chief 20 years ago doesn't hold any weight today, right? Difference if you were chief 20 years ago and you remained active, you continued to train, you stayed engaged in the fire service as a whole, engaged in the fire service as a whole, not just showed up and while everybody else was working hung back and watched and hung back, didn't watch, bullshit, didn't really pay attention.
Had a conversation in the back room.
Right. That's just being present. That's not, that's not engaging. That's not learning. That's not keeping up with what's going on today.
Correct.
So, to plug somebody like that in, and look, I know it happens, and it happens a lot in the volunteer fire service. The problem is, what are you plugging in?
What are you really gaining out of it?
Yeah. Why do you have why do you have rules and regulations and policies and procedures for the people that are there, right? So you're telling your firefighter that wants to become a lieutenant, they have to do A, B, and C before they can become a lieutenant, or the lieutenant that's becoming a captain, he has to do C, C, D, and E. But you can take somebody that did it 15 years ago and be like, all right, bro, we're plugging you in. Good luck. God bless. Thank you for your service. Where's the standard? Where's the equal weight there?
Sure. Or you know what? You get the guys that do become the officers, and we'll take the beard thing, the whole facial hair thing. You're an officer of a department, and you show up to a call with a beard. What does that kind of example does that set for people? That's, again, sign of entitlement. The rule doesn't apply to me. I'm a lieutenant. I can do what I want. I'm a captain. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, bullshit.
It drives you freaking crazy. It really does.
Yeah.
Here you are. You're trying to follow the rules. You're trying to set a nice example, and the guy next to you is doing the exact opposite.
Yeah. My favorite one is, I'm a chief officer. I'm not going to be interior anyway.
Right.
Look, now I know not everybody has command vehicles or chief's trucks. Some are lucky. I'm lucky to have, but I've got an SCBA in my truck. I've got full PPE. I've got extinguishers. I've got I've got everything I need. Where if I roll up on the scene first and I got to do some work, I can do some work. So what? So
or you have a small department like ours, where most of our interior firefighters are our officers.
Yeah. So the rules do apply to me, and they apply to everybody else.
Sure. Yeah. So it's
I'll give you one here, Gene. And Brian and I have talked about this off camera a lot. I think what is kind of driving a lot of the change in the culture of the fire departments is social media. It could be good or bad. And this goes for anything, but we'll focus in on fire departments, firefighters. They get all these followers. There are people out there that get these followers on Facebook, Instagram. Why are they getting those followings? There's no credibility behind this. They live in a fantasy world.
Exactly.
And I think
Facebook fireman.
Yeah. I think that's almost like driving this, it's like a fraud. That these people live in, that when it turns to reality, you almost get that entitlement out of it. Like, well, wait a minute, I got this, I do this. No, that's all like fantasy world,
I've been a member for 3 years, and I showed up to 20% of the calls. Yeah, but what classes did you take?
Yeah. Or
doesn't
matter. They go take a class, post it on social media. Oh, I'm a leveled. We always talk about this at the academy. I'm
nationally certified.
Yeah. I'm a pro board instructor. Who gives a shit? You don't know how to light hay on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I don't go around bragging every class I take. It's silly. It really is.
Taking pictures of your certificates every time you complete something and posted it on social media. And look, it's part of it. I get, it's great. All right, good. Stay engaged. I'm going to give somebody an attaboy or an attagirl for going out and taking their time and continuing to educate themselves, because there's lots of people out there that think they don't have to educate themselves at all.
Right.
And they're still entitled to, they still think they're entitled to.
Their 30 years in the firehouse is enough.
Right. Why can't I get on the first new engine out the door? Well, what do you mean why? Well, I've been here for 5 years already. Yeah, but you don't come to drill. You don't continue to educate yourself. You don't go to classes. Well, so-and-so's only been here a year. Well, so-and-so's made every freaking drill, has taken like 15 different classes in a year. They've got their certificate. So yeah, bro, like step it up. And we'll pull you instead of them.
That's one of the things we had talked about in one of the roundtables. The problem is we went from making an effort to make a difference in the fire service to coming to expect something from the fire service.
Right.
You know, you got to stay humble. You got to work hard. And you got to remember that you asked to join. You wanted to become this. Why did you want to become part of this? Not what's in it for me. What have you got to give to the community, to the department as a whole, to try and make it better? You know, and we've gotten away from that somehow. And you know, my goal has been trying to get it to go back that way.
Yeah. Meanwhile, what does everybody put on their application when they apply to a volunteer firehouse? You know, like what's their reason for joining the firehouse? Serve my community. You know, everyone, like it's either because my dad or my grandfather or if there's no family connection, the standard answer is serve my community. Okay, well, all right, let's take.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah, how are you going to do that? How are you going to serve the community? You know?
Well, I think the other thing that changed too, you kind of touched on it before, was when we get these new members that join the firehouse, we have to be careful because our membership is down, or you know, like we're not getting as many. So we got to be careful. And we, you know, I used to say, Mike, when I was chief, I don't need, you know, I would rather have one good guy than 10 losers. Right. You know, so you know, I don't need this crap. Like I'll go find somebody else, or I'll, you know, if you're not going to get on board, then, and there's a fine line you got to walk with that, you know.
Sure. Yeah. You don't want to turn everybody away and make it look like you're starting a clique type of thing, you know.
Right. But you can't take. But
you can't take everybody just because you need membership.
Because they're entitled.
They have to be there, right? They have to be there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Like I said, we for some reason have been creating this monster just because of things like that, low numbers, that type of stuff, and then you know it's a hard battle to try and get back at it. But
you know, and the crazy thing is that like I don't know why so many of us have blinders on. That you know usually this thing is created over years, right? So the guy that's already in the seat that's been promoting up all this time, you know, we normally see it, but I guess the majority of us just decide to ignore it. Maybe it comes up in conversation once a year, you know, at election time, once a year it comes up and it's like, oh, you know, are we going to vote Jim in again this year? You know, and I'm using Jim as a fictional character, right? But you've got those few people that pay attention that come to you and they're like, so what do you think about Jim? Are we voting Jim in again this year? And my standard answer is, what do you mean am I voting Jim in again this year? You know, it's the company as a whole that's voting Jim in. If you guys and girls don't think that, you know, Jim is deserving of his spot for one reason or another, you need to freaking vote Jim out or not vote Jim in. Or you know what? Stop being a bunch of pussies and sit Jim down and have a conversation and be like, bro, what's your deal? You know, like, do you want this? Like, or are you just here because you like the fancy truck, you like the red lights, you like the different color helmet? Like, what's your deal, dude?
Big boys, big toys,
it's the
man.
Euro helmet.
What's that? Don't get me.
Maybe it's the Euro helmet.
It's those big lime green engines here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that too, probably.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it is.
Sign me up.
But you know, we're not like, we're good at having these conversations behind closed doors, but for some reason, like we don't want to have these conversations out in the public, you know? And when you go from somebody who's been a leader for X amount of time, and as a leadership group, you know, you're doing good things, you're moving forward, you're progressing, like everybody's morale is good. And now all of a sudden you make that transition from, you know, Chief A to Chief B. And now we're all standing around going, what the hell just happened? You know, what just happened? Like the last 4 years that we've been doing all these great things, like 4 months later it's all in the shitter. You know, and why is it in the shitter? You know?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Again, it's partially our own fault because we see a guy moving up. We're not necessarily happy with how he's, serving in whatever position, lieutenant, captain.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't matter.
because he's been a lieutenant for 3 years, well, he's been there 3 years. He should be captain. It's
happens
just
all over. It happens
yeah,
all over.
it really does. And,
Right.
and we're allowing it to happen, but by not wanting to stir the pot per se.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we feel bad and we don't want to start arguments in the firehouse. We just let it happen.
Right. And you know what? Like you said, we're our own worst enemy. Sometimes maybe all it would take is a conversation, and maybe that conversation would open somebody's eyes. Like if I was in whatever ranking position, and 4 or 5 of my other guys came over to me and was like, "Yo, dude, can we sit down? Can we talk?" And they laid it on the table and was like, listen, there's some, the members are kind of questioning, where your head is in the game, like what you're doing, if you deserve to be here, if you should rank up. I would either take it, and again, I guess it's personality, right? I would be I'd be like blown away and be like, oh shit, I better up my game, or they're gonna bounce me.
That's the problem with entitled people, though. They don't even see it at all.
Yeah.
They think they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You could tell them that they're not, and they're not going to believe you.
Yep.
Well, I wouldn't be chief. I wouldn't have made it to chief if I was doing such a bad job. That's not necessarily true.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So the next question
go ahead.
is how do you take somebody that's in that position and A, either correct it, or B, get them out of there?
Yeah.
I think, like you said, is have that conversation. You got to start with the conversation, and it's got to be a conversation. It can't be, such a negative or whatever. It needs to be like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? Do you need help? Whatever. But I think it's got to start with that conversation.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's got to start with the conversation, and then you don't have the conversation a week before it's time to either reelect that person or move that person up. We all see this stuff happening long before it's time to mark somebody's name down on a piece of paper. Long before that, we see that,
Yep.
So, if we're all sitting back just thinking, all right, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And we're just afraid that to either have the conversation or for whatever reason, don't want to do it. You know what? If you wait till a week before, it's too late. Because we all know what's going to happen then. They're just going to stay, or they're going to move up, or it's going to be status quo. It's going to be what it is.
Like we said, we stay quiet and we allow it to happen.
Yeah.
We're fueling the fire. That's
That's
exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. And I know when it comes to the top spot, sometimes it's putting those below the top spot and they feel like they're in a weird position. Like, he's my friend, because it always comes back to, look, we're all from small communities. Normally
I don't want to run against him.
Right.
Yeah.
Normally Normally we're from small communities. We are all friendly outside of the firehouse, and it's like, it's not my position to say something. Well, yeah, you're already saying something. You're just saying it to everybody else except for the person that's the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So what about the person that's not there yet, right? I think everybody that listened to, everybody's going to relate to everything we just talked about regarding the person that's in a leadership position, in some sort of line position, and because I'm sure most of us have been there. So I'm sure everybody that's listening to this is going to relate to that. So now, what about when it comes to, those people that they're not there yet, they're considering getting involved in a leadership position, but they haven't yet. But part of their reason for wanting to get involved is because they think they're entitled to it.
Again, that's before it happens is when you have to address that. You know, I understand that you're interested in moving up, you know, but this is what we're looking for in leadership. This is what we expect from our leaders. You know, A, B, C, D, and E. You know, you really need to follow that, and we have to set the example. And that's, you know, that's really what it comes down to. If you have poor leadership, you're going to get poor quality members. You have strong leadership. Yeah.
Just going to say that. So like if you have strong policy in place that you need 25%, you need to have this class, you need to have this class, it needs to be enforced.
Correct.
And then if it's not enforced, that's when you're going to have those, you know, if somebody wants to run, they can sit down and tell you, hey, I want to run. Well, you don't have this class. You got to go get this class and then you can run.
Mhm.
You know, but like you said, if you have poor leadership that bends the rules, what's the point of having rules then? You're going to wind up getting those duds in there.
Yeah. Like we said, we're creating that monster before it even happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, fact of the matter is, if you don't consistently enforce the rules that you have in place across the board, regardless of who the person is, you might as well just throw them in the shredder, right?
Exactly.
Because you know, you can't do for one and not do the same for somebody else. So if we're going to say, oh, you know, again, Jim, our fictional character here, oh, well, Jim doesn't have the class that he was supposed to get, you know, and you know, guys are amazing when it comes to coming up with excuses, right? They'll freaking come up with all kinds of crazy excuses. Well, they didn't offer it, so how was I supposed to get it? And you're like, well, the guy running against you got it.
Yeah.
You know, well, how'd he get it? Well, he went to the next county over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't do that. I work. I would. So what, dude?
I have my own business. I
Yeah,
do this.
yeah.
I gotta watch the kids. It was laundry day. There's always some kind
Everybody's
of
got excuses. Everybody's got different excuses.
Yeah.
Right. And look, bottom line is, this isn't a hobby. Okay.
No.
You know,
Not by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. This, you know, and we see that phrase used all over social media, you know, referring to volunteers as the hobbyists, right? But this isn't a hobby, you know. And if you're treating it like a hobby, like if you're filling out an application for something and it comes to the hobbies section and you write volunteer fire department, you're an asshole. Okay. sorry, you know, but you are, because this isn't a hobby, right? It's a profession. It's a job, even though, again, kind of the premise of the whole show, you're not getting a paycheck for it. It's, you know, are you acting like a professional, or are you treating it like a hobby? And if you think that you can rank up or you can run for a position just because you're a nice guy, and I'm sure you are a nice guy, you have a sense of entitlement.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I heard it when I moved up. I heard the mumblings in the background. Well, how come he got it? I should have been the next person to be bumped up. You know, he's only been here X amount of years. Oh, is it because he's a paid fireman? Has nothing to do with it. I was asked. I didn't even ask for the position.
Right.
Hey, I'd love for you to be an officer. I think that's fantastic. You know, to me, it's humbling. It's an honor to be offered to be in that position. You know, and that's the way it should be approached. You know, not of course I deserve it. I'm a paid fireman. Why shouldn't it? You know.
Yeah. Right.
That would make me entitled.
Right.
You know, and that's not the case at all.
Listen, when I switched departments, you know, when I first got to where I am now, and they were handing out, giving me all my stuff and my uniforms. When I first went down there, the guy that was in the quartermaster, he handed me a white shirt, white hat, gold, all my ex-chief stuff, you know, and then it went to the membership the next month, and they're like, wait a minute, he's not an ex-chief here, you know, he was an ex-chief up the road.
Right.
And you know what? I wasn't looking to make any waves, because I had just made the move. I'm like, guys, I don't give a shit. I'll wear whatever you give me. I don't care if my shirt's blue, white, what color my hat is. Like, I really don't care. I'm just happy to be here. I just kind of want to do my thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I switched back. And then a couple months later, it turned into this big discussion, like off to the side. I wasn't even involved in it. And, you know, a couple guys stepped up and they were like, whoa. You know, this guy was a chief. So what? He was a chief next door. You know, once a chief, always a chief. You know,
Right.
he should get the respect of being a chief. And I'm sitting there quiet as a church mouse, right? I'm like, I didn't ask for this. I didn't start this. You know,
Exactly.
this is them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was extremely humbled, and I was,
Sure.
you know, and I was honored that guys would go to bat for me and be like, you
And
know,
that's the difference.
and that kind of changed precedent a little bit too, because now if somebody else came in and they had been a chief somewhere else, they would, you know, they would get the same treatment. You know,
Sure.
they would keep their, you know, keep their rank per se. You know,
Yeah.
but
I said,
Same
when I
thing too, when
joined,
you- Go ahead, Gene.
I was gonna say, when I joined up here, you know, the fact that I was a paid fireman meant nothing. I signed up, I did my probation just like any other person would. I didn't, you know, try and take over any drills. I kept quiet. I did what I was asked to do, did what I was told to do. And that's what makes the difference.
sure,
You know, I
sure.
never took what I do for a living and treat it as though I deserve any kind of special treatment because I do this for a living.
Right. But I'm sure guys turned to you, and I'm sure even when you were still fairly new, I'm sure they still asked you questions, and I'm sure they still, you know, pulled in.
It was always, yeah, oh, sure. Oh, how do you guys do it down there?
Right,
Well, you know,
right.
it's
right.
completely different. You know,
Yes. Yep.
we can't compare the two. And that was part of the reason for me just staying quiet and learning the systems, and, you know, that's the proper way to do it. Earn the position.
Right.
Not expect the position.
Yeah.
So,
John, what were you going to say?
I think that the same thing too, when you get a member from another company who's been a firefighter for, you know, 20 years, say, and they go to another place, they might feel entitled. They don't have to wear a probie shield. They don't have to do a probationary period, or they don't have to do this. They, you know, I should make less percentage than guy who's been here for a year. When really, my opinion is you're new in that company, you know?
right.
Yeah.
And however, like when I got my helmet, when I moved to Brick, it was like, oh, I don't have to wear a probie shield. And they're like, no, you're good. And I'm like, okay, whatever you guys want to do. I mean, I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, that's an entitlement too, is
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much like what I said. The same, you know, when I came in, I didn't expect anything. I wanted to be treated just like any other new member.
Yeah.
So
I
didn't
listen,
expect
you know that you got to learn. You know, when you're making that transition, it's all new. You know, like
Sure.
it was a huge change for me. You know, I was coming from a combination house to an all volunteer house, and things just ran differently. You know, I didn't, you know, so being in a 100% volunteer atmosphere versus an atmosphere where you always, I hate to say always have people to depend on, but you know what I mean? Like there's guys there working. So,
Right.
you know, if it's a smells and bells call that, you know, is a smells and bells call, you don't feel so bad not running out of the house. Right. Because you know somebody's going to take the run, as in when it's 100% volunteer house, you're like, shit, if I don't go, nobody's going. You know, somebody's got to go. You know, we got to go. You know, but you know, there's always something to learn. There's always something that's new, that's different. You know, so you can't come in with that air about you that, well, no,
Yeah.
I've been doing this.
So
for
it's
20
not
years
just
already.
the new guys, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not.
No,
just
not at
the new
all.
guys.
No, it's
that's what we
across.
said.
It's
across
the board. Yeah.
Yeah. All ranks, all ages, everything. It's just,
Yep.
it's become, like we said, part of the culture, and we're allowing it to continue. So
yeah. So how do we allow it? This is a loaded question. How do we stop it from continuing to happen? What are some steps that we can take? And again, when I say we, it's got to be we. You know, John or Gene or Brian can't stop it on their own, right? We're one person in an organization of God knows how many, right? Maybe we can verbalize things a little bit more than others, right? And I think that's part of it. I think everybody not speaking their mind is a big part of the problem. So how do we start to curb that problem or alleviate that problem when we see it happening in whatever age group or faction of the organization?
I think it starts with ourselves. We have to be the example of what's to be expected. You know, I mean, that's really the starting place. You can't change someone overnight, but you can change yourself. You know, so be that example. This how I am is what I expect of everyone from me going forward. But be it rank and file above you, be it the rank and file below you, this is what should be expected of. You know, and that's
Agreed.
Pretty good,
yeah. So and it catches on. You know, it definitely catches on. It may take some time. You'll get one or two to say, hey, you know, this guy's onto something, and you know, and that's how it's going to grow, and that's how it's going to change.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to speak to people. You have to let them know, hey, you know, I don't think what the way current things are or how you're running it, you know, however you want to word it, but you got to let them know that this is not acceptable. You know, we're professional. We're expected to be that way, and you know, take it from there.
I think that comes back to like what you know, and we've talked about it on our Instagram lives, is no matter what's going on in the agency and even in life, you just got to keep doing what you're doing. You know, like my training business. You know, I just had a conversation with a guy that I teach with, another company, and we're both very like, we're doing what we do. We put out our content. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, jump on board. You know. And the same thing in the firehouse. You do what you do what you believe in, because you can't fake it till you make it in this business.
Absolutely
you know?
not.
Right.
So do what you do, and do it to the best of your ability, and people will either follow or you have that conversation with them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and so how do you guys feel about, because we've all had experiences with, you know, those people that approach us as leaders because they see something that they don't like. You know, maybe they see a leadership style they don't like, or they see somebody that they feel, you know, has that entitlement air about them. You know, and they come to you knowing that you're, you know, an open-minded person, don't really sugarcoat your conversations, and they know they're going to get an honest answer, and they say, hey, what do we do? What are we going to do about whomever, right? What are we going to do about that person? You know, this is them coming to you, asking for help, saying, hey, what are we going to do about so-and-so? You know, how do you answer that?
That we is the important factor right there.
Right.
You know, well, this is what we can do. You know, you just as much as me have to set examples. You know, and we have to. I personally have an open door policy. You have any issues, any questions, any problems, you call me anytime, day, night, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what needs to happen. People need to know that you're not, you know, pulling their leg. You're not bullshitting them, and you know, you have to have good intentions, because they will see it if you don't. It's absolutely something that's completely see-through. If you're full of shit, they're gonna know you're full of shit.
Yeah.
You know, so
true. You know, and like you said, you know, you can't pull any punches, you know. And so when somebody comes with that question and they're concerned about somebody, and they, you know, they think that they do have that entitlement air, and they think that's the only thing that's advancing them through the ranks or getting them to a rank. And normally it's one person representing many, you know, because they'll come and say like, well, they were talking about it. One of these days, I'm going to do a whole episode. It's just going to be entitled "They."
Who's they?
Right? Who is they? Right?
Yeah.
And my answer has always been, well, you know what? You and they need to speak your mind. You know, you and the rest of them, whoever they are, when it comes time for nominations or investigating committee or whatever the hell it may be, whatever your process is, instead of all sitting there and just, you know, not acknowledging a problem that you feel we have, you need, whether you think you're going to be chastised or not, you need to bring that out. You need to open your mouth.
Absolutely, because you can only do so much and speak for they, for that person. But unless you all speak your mind, it's really not going to ever go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I can't change somebody by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a department, as a group, we can make a change, but one person's not going to make that change. They can start it, but they can't make that change.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to love when I would have conversations with like groups of people, right? Like groups of people at the firehouse, and they'd be like, we need to do this, we need to do that, we. And then
Right.
it would come to like monthly meeting, and I'd be all fired up, and I'd raise my hand, and I'd be like, all right, this is what, and then when it would come time for support, you turn around and be like, yo, where's the 15 that said we need
it's all crickets.
Yeah. Where's the support, yo?
Yep. Yeah.
That's because everybody wants to run their mouth in the background, and they think they're entitled to run their mouth. Oh, like, oh, can you believe he did that? Can you believe he did this? And well, when the rubber meets the road, where are you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I used to say when I was chief, you got 3 options, right? Get on board with the program, run against me and change it, do whatever you want, or get the fuck out of here.
Right.
There you go.
Those are your options.
That's exactly it.
You can't make any other options up. Those are your options.
You know what? And the scary part of that, and listen, I love that. I'm sure Gene loves that too. But the scary part of that, and you got 2 guys here that both love it, and I respect it.
Absolutely.
You've got how many people out there would focus on your third option?
Oh my God!
You're get the fuck out of here option. They'd be like, oh, that guy's a freaking what an arrogant asshole that guy is. You know. Yeah.
He's trying to get rid of everybody.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. But that's the way. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the facts, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you can't be fake in this business. Being a leader, being a new member in a company, you can't be fake, right? You got to be who you are and just keep doing what you're doing, and everything else will fall into place. But you can't be fake. You can't. If something's not working out, have a conversation about it. It should. We could go off on so many different topics of this, but it all comes back to that attitude towards the fire service. Entitlement, attitude towards the firehouse, being professional. That's like the key. The key, whatever.
Yeah. It's a big circle. Everything always comes back to the same thing. It's the attitude.
You know
really
what?
Does.
And we've focused this entire episode on, being the outsider looking in at those people. And there, what? Hopefully there's some people that listen to this episode and they, it opens their eyes to the whole problem and maybe how they might address the problem in their organization if they have it with specific people. But hopefully there's some of those specific people out there that are listening that know, like they're doing a little introspection, a little
soul
searching when they're listening to this, and they're like, "Boy, you know what?
Shit, that's me."
I wonder if those guys were talking about me."
I'll bet you $50. I'll bet you $50 and a bag of cashews that 0 people are thinking that.
Well, you never know.
It's wishful thinking, right?
I like to think positively, and I like to think that sometimes it might not happen today or tomorrow. It might happen once they get bounced. They're like, well, shit,
even if you open up one guy's eyes.
Yeah. How come I was a 1-year chief?
Right.
How come I was a 1-year chief? And that then they're listening to this and they're going, ooh. Hey, did somebody send my name in on this one? But
special requests.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Final thoughts, guys. Any final thoughts on this topic?
I like I said, I think we just need to stay focused, stay positive, and try and be the example of what to expect and what not to expect. Don't be an asshole. Be true to what we do, and it gets better. It really does.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Don't be an asshole. Just be true and do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'll steal a word that has been coined by Jeremy Sanders over at Crew First Culture. He's big talking about humbleness.
Yes.
And Jeremy's done a couple real good episodes, and he's joined us a couple of times, and he always seems to kind of find his way there. You know, I don't know how he does it. We could be talking about anything, but all of a sudden he steers the conversation back towards being humble. But it's a huge part of everything that we do, and I think all of us realize that at some point in time. I know, when I kind of look at my journey, I can pick out some points in my life where I wasn't the most humble of people, and that's a big part of this whole thing, and it ties right back to this entitlement, I think, for sure. So,
well,
let me for Jeremy.
Let me just comment on that. One thing that the three of us can agree on is that none of us are perfect, and we are able to, we're able to have this conversation because we've been there and we've realized that we've made mistakes, and this is, maybe we could have done this a little bit, but, and what attitude works and what attitude doesn't from experience.
Right. Exactly.
So, before everybody says that we're assholes, man,
Yeah, no.
And you know what? At times you need to be.
Right.
So,
yeah.
That's part of the job. There's
Absolutely.
a time and a place to be the
absolutely.
asshole. So don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, if if you make it through your career, regardless of where your career takes you, whether you're just a rank and file guy your entire life or you step up to a leadership position, but you make it through your entire career and everybody is still your friend, you didn't have much of a career, probably.
No.
Somebody, I'll leave you with this. Somebody told me once, you got to be, when you're chief, you got to be able to walk into the kitchen, the firehouse kitchen, and sit down and have a cup of coffee with the guys and be okay if all of them get up and walk out.
Absolutely.
And it took me a long time to realize, like, man, that doesn't sound very good, But it took me a long time to understand what he was telling me. He was an older guy.
Yeah. Well, guys, I appreciate it. John, thanks for co-hosting. I didn't
really help, but
give a little plug. give a little sign-off plug for yourself.
Jersey Shore Emergency Training. If you need anything, mental health, I posted IGTV with my cell phone number on it. It's out there, so if you need anything, call me up.
And Instagram is at Jersey Shore Emergency Training. And Facebook as well. Both places.
Email.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Gene, thanks for coming on and diving deeper into this topic. I know you've been sitting there for a while, waiting patiently to dive into this one. And
you got me with that teaser, that's for sure.
I appreciate it, and I
knew it was a pleasure.
I got some messages from a few people, and I'm sure you know who they are. That was like, you got to get Gene. You got to get Gene on there. He's like, he listened to the mutual aid episode. You got to get him on there. Gene,
thank you.
What's your social? What's your IG handle?
Instagram is Axeman Gene.
Axeman Gene. So
Thanks
for coming on. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to talk to both of you guys.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be on there with you guys.
Yep, absolutely. Agreed.
So until the next time, fellas, thank you very much. Stay healthy and stay safe, all right?
Have a good one.
All right.